Welcome back to the Mission43 Podcast. Today we got Michele Bradfield as a guest, and Michele's story is unlike most. She's an amazing storyteller, a military spouse, and a Mission43 Leaders Fellow. She has quite the story to tell about the power of positivity and positive self-talk. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Mission43 Podcast, a podcast dedicated to discussing the struggles and triumphs of transitioning to life after the military. I'm Dan Nelson. I'm a former Army Special Forces officer who's personally experienced the challenges of transitioning to civilian life. In every episode, we'll be sharing tips, strategies, and real-life stories of veterans and their families who've chosen Idaho for their life after the military. So join us, and let's start the conversation. Michele Bradfield, thank you so much for being here. You're the first influencer that we've had on our podcast.
You got to stop calling me that.
You said yes earlier. Technically, you say you're not an influencer, but you influence the influencers. Yes. Not in like you didn't say that as like I'm the king of them or queen of them. You said
no. I collab with them a lot.
You collab.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's pretty cool. I've never collabed with anyone in my life. What does a collab look like?
So I do a lot of awareness campaigns where I'm working with people who have big networks to share resources, information, which are influencers. So I'm pitching them and working with them a lot to share the info that I need to get out there.
I paid you $50,000. I just wanted 100 friends on Facebook, and I'm still waiting for the payoff. But either way, don't take that as a sign of her. No, I'm just kidding. It's been pretty interesting to learn from you, and over the past year, you've been a part of the Leaders Fellowship, Cohort 5, the Leaders Fellowship, right? Mm-hmm. You're coming up here on the end of your official year, but it never really ends as the fellowship moves forward, right? So Phase 4 is never ending. But what made you do that?
Put my name in the hat?
I guess so, yeah. Like, what drew you to Mission 43 as a whole? What drew you to the fellowship? Like, you have a lot going on for you.
Yeah, well, both my husband and I went to Boise State University, and we had been calling Idaho home for years. And then...
was it, though, or were you guys all over?
No, we were traveling all over.
Okay.
We moved constantly. And my husband, he got injured pretty early on in his first deployment and was trying to manage that throughout his whole career. Mm-hmm. And it finally came to a point where he wasn't going to be mission ready, and the Army medically retired him. Mm. So that was unexpected.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we were moving back to Idaho.
Okay. So it wasn't a planned deal. And I can empathize with this very much, where you guys didn't have a plan to change your role as serving spouse and then serving as a military spouse yourself, right?
Right.
How long was that from flash to bang, like where it was like, oh, this could happen, to it happened?
Months.
Okay, so pretty quick.
Months, and it was all during COVID times.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Fun.
Yeah.
So you retired remotely then, or he retired remotely?
Yeah, basically. We decided to take a RV from Virginia to Idaho to see if this is where we wanted to be. We thought it was, and that turned into a disaster on top of all the stress of getting out of the military. And we did it twice. And so when we got here, we were pretty shaken up. And just,
you guys have kids and everything,
too,
right?
We have kids. At that time, we had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old.
All in an RV?
In an RV. A 1999 Winnebago.
Oh, nice.
That broke down in Nebraska.
Perfect. So was this your decision then, or was it a joint decision to like a harikari type of thing where you go, guys, like mutually assured destruction for your family? Like, we're going to pack ourselves in this cube that may not make it. And
yeah, we were living the dream. We're like, we have all this time. We're going to go explore. We're going to stop at all the national parks.
That is pretty cool.
We're going to get to Idaho. His folks live in McCall, so we had a base station. We were going to see if Idaho was our home.
Yeah.
And it went south fast.
So you came here, you said you did it twice. So you did the Oregon Trail once in the Winnebago.
Yes.
And you came to McCall.
It came to McCall.
This is during COVID.
Right after COVID.
Okay, gotcha.
So why that's important is that when we broke down in Nebraska, we couldn't get the part that we needed. And so we had to take a car, and we were in McCall in a rental car, and it was super expensive. We got here, the housing market was insane, and we're like, there's no way this is going to happen. And tensions are high.
Yeah.
And stress is high. Plus, he's dealing with separating from the military, which is stressful in and of itself.
It's basically like why we exist as Mission 43 is to help families transition from the military to this life.
Exactly.
Were you involved in Mission 43 at that time? Was your husband or you or your family at all?
We were members because he had found you guys through like career development. Someone had passed along your name. He showed me. I'm heavily involved in the military nonprofit space.
Yeah.
And when I saw you guys, I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I had never seen anything like it. And I just couldn't believe that this could potentially be in Idaho where we wanted to be. So he had signed up.
What is this? As in, oh my gosh, what
a
is this? That's Brad Pitt, or what is this? That's Dan at the pool.
I saw Dan's face.
Oh.
No. No, just like this community, because that's my whole career has been based on building community for military families and helping them thrive.
You've been trying to do that through a lot of different veterans and military family initiatives, nonprofits, but you've been doing it at the national level. And then you just happened to stumble upon, I don't want to say you stumbled upon Idaho, but you guys came here to Idaho and you stumbled upon Mission 43, which is a very localized nonprofit movement here, right?
Yeah.
Is that different than anything you've experienced in the past, or have you worked for other like very localized organizations like this?
When I first lived here, I worked for Make-A-Wish Foundation of Idaho. So I had the localized nonprofit experience, but in the national realm of military nonprofits, I had never seen anything like it. I'd never seen the passion and real on the boots like impact. What you guys were doing was really cool. A lot of people get out of the military and they're lonely. They go from having, especially spouses, having, their FRGs. They move into base housing and they have people surrounding them, and then they get out of the military and they don't know anyone.
I don't know if there's such thing as a regular or normal military spouse, because it seems like, we talk to everyone, yourself included, that has all these different crazy careers and experiences and family stories, and just being basically the project manager of the household in itself is not anything small, right? But you've had like a very big career, you've gone through all this, and then not to go back to the hard times, the times of hard tension, but like, were you lonely too? Like, I know your husband's dealing with, I don't know actually, but I'm guessing like the things that are common are like a loss of identity, a loss of purpose, a loss of your tribe, or whatever you want to call it. Like all of a sudden you're in Idaho, you're a person that used to be X in the military, and now you're just a dude and or dudette. Is that about accurate for him maybe?
Oh yeah. He was struggling big time, and I was struggling too.
Why for you?
Because forever I have been telling him, like, when we're out of the military, it's my turn. Like, I have supported you, and I love doing that as my greatest honor. But I'm career driven.
Yeah.
And my path has been super janky because I've been trying to mold to whatever destination we've landed in.
Making it work.
Yeah, and making it work. And so here I am in Idaho. I had quit my job, and I had come off of a very stressful position in a nonprofit who had stepped up big time during COVID.
Okay.
So I'm feeling burned out.
Yeah.
But also lost. Like, okay, here I am. I've told him for years, like, now it's my turn. For what? Now I got to hold true to that promise, but what am I going to do? I don't even know who I am. Like, this is the first time I've ever gotten to pick.
Yeah.
I've just been a chameleon. What do you want me to do? You need me to figure out how to do graphic design? I'll do that. You need me to run the FRG? Sign me up. Like, whatever you want, I'm there. So here I am in Idaho, and it's literally the first time since I was 24 years old that I got to pick my path. And I'm like, I don't know who I am. Like, I don't know who I am without someone telling me what I need to be.
I think that is really powerful, honestly, and probably resonates with more people than just military spouses. But you sacrificed a lot, you know, as far as career-wise, and at least the freedom of your career, right? Like you committed to your family and your husband's dedication to the military, and in that, it sounds like your career decisions came subsequent to where you were at, right? Like where the military told you to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then did you feel, and you're saying like, well, what the hell do I do now once you finally have that freedom? But did you feel empowered by that, or is it just completely freaking overwhelming?
Overwhelming, because I didn't know who I was anymore. I wasn't a military spouse, really. But I didn't really fit in the civilian world. I was looking for jobs going, I don't resonate with any of this. My people are military. And so luckily, I was able to do consulting for the nonprofits that I had supported, so I still had my foot in there. But we were also living in a community that was far from the city, and I didn't know anyone other than my in-laws in McCall. And I knew I needed my military community. The first year here, anytime you move somewhere, you're trying to get your feet on the ground. It's not easy. You're just trying to figure out where to go to the doctor, you know, where to get your hair cut, those kind of things. Yeah. It's like survival mode. And I had seen Mission43, and I'm like, I know at some point I'm going to get there. But I had to have my feet on the ground. I needed my kids to be in a good spot.
Are you saying it wasn't enough just for you to constantly hang out with your recently retired husband, your infant children, and your in-laws? What else do you need, Michelle?
Yeah, it was a lot.
I'm just kidding. I know, like, it doesn't. That is a lot for anybody to be holed up, whether it's COVID, whether it's job-wise, whether it's whatever. Like, that is a recipe for a lot of stress, right? Or certainly a loss of identity, maybe. Like, it's all your connections went away, right?
Yeah, and everyone that I was connected to was virtual. So I just needed human connection and people that understood.
Well, how did you navigate that? How did your family navigate that then? From going to, you're living in Valley County, I'm guessing, somewhere?
I'm out in Avamore.
Well, now, but at that point, were you in Avamore as well?
Yep.
Okay.
We had moved there right away.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. So you're in Avamore, which is, like right at the edge, Ada County, Boise County.
Yeah.
You're at the edge of Eagle and striking distance in the Treasure Valley, but you hadn't been plugged into any kind of network yet.
Nope. And like I said, I was really career driven. I wanted to be part of the Boise scene, but I wasn't yet. And so, you know, I saw this opportunity. And let me back up a minute. So my husband and I knew that this transition from the military was going to be hard. So we always planned to get support through some type of like therapy. And so we were going through that. He was working on his stuff. I was working on mine. But we had also come to a point where he just needed to figure out some things, right? Like to deal with everything that happened in military life and separating from that. And I needed to figure out my story too, aside from his military story. I needed to figure out who I was. So I put my name in the hat for the fellowship, hoping to find people like myself, to find that community, but then also to push myself to do the big hike, because I wasn't taking time for myself.
Yeah.
Like I was not even taking a minute to go for a walk around the block. So having that purpose, like I wasn't going to be the person that showed up on the hike and I couldn't do it. So being able to say, like, I need a minute to go train.
Yeah, it's a goal.
It was huge, and it was more beneficial for my mental health than I could have ever anticipated.
When you say the hike, what you're talking about is phase 2 of the Leaders Fellowship and the Wilderness Immersion. You're doing 3 nights in the backcountry, whether it's Sawtooths, White Clouds, Frank Church, whatever. We take different groups, different places, but that's what you're talking about then, right?
Right.
Have you ever been backpacking at that point before?
No.
Ever spent a night in the woods by yourself?
No. I camp. I like to camp, but I'm more of a glamper, I would say.
Yeah.
So this was big. This was a big deal for me to be able to do this.
What is it that drew you then to Mission 43? I mean, because you work in this landscape, you're very familiar for years with all these veterans nonprofits, for lack of a better term, military family nonprofits. And why did you, choose to take a step in the direction of Mission 43?
Because everyone that I was a part of was on a computer screen. I needed people that I could hug and call up and say, do you want to go grab a coffee?
Yeah.
Like I needed that human interaction that you just can't get. You just can't get that virtually.
So to you, local is important.
Super important.
And what was your initiation like, I guess? I mean, I'm not talking about the paddling and all the hazing that we did, but no, like when you first started coming, like both you and your husband, when you first started actually attending events, whether it was through the fellowship or otherwise, what was the experience like for you guys as a family?
Like home. It was just comfortable. There's just an instant connection with your people that you can't get other places. They just get you, what you've been through, what you could be going through. And, you start talking about, here's where I've been. Oh, you were there too? And, oh, I know this person. And the world just shrinks.
Yeah. What is it, I guess, then throughout this past year, because like I said, you're kind of finishing up the first year of your Leaders Fellowship here, but is there any particular experience or person or peer or whatever, whether it's a person that came and interacted with you as like a guide or a guest speaker or one of your other fellows that really impacted you?
Oh, goodness, all of them. But honestly, Amy from my cohort.
Amy Gilbert?
Day 2 of the fellowship. We were on a run and I was struggling with it. And she stepped back with me and was like, I got you, sister. I'm not going to leave you behind. And that meant a lot because I was dealing with a lot of self-doubt. Like, do I even belong here? Like, these people are amazing. And if I can't even keep up on this run, how am I going to do all this? And for her to put her arm around me, someone I didn't even know, and be like, I got you. That was big. And from there on, she's been a dear friend.
She's okay. I told her to go get you and turn your shirt on inside out and run back to the hotel, but they frowned upon that. But no, it's funny to me to hear you and so many other people too. It seems like these best and brightest people that we're in awe of, that I'm in awe of, including you, are like, well, I'm not sure if I belong. And I'm like, well, shit, join the club. Like, I have to sit there and listen to your guys' stories, cohort after cohort after cohort, and be like, God, I really need to up my game, It becomes, like, it's a lot to see, but in a positive way for me, at least. Like, maybe I know I don't belong in the same ballpark as you guys, but it's fun to be able to play in it anyway.
I think everyone feels that way.
Yeah. Well, it's a remarkable experience, and as me as a fellow to you in different cohorts, of course, but it is a life-changing experience. But we see people with a lot of like significant life changes throughout the year and beyond of the actual fellowship experience. Like, people change jobs, people make big personal changes in their lives. Like, is there anything that was really monumentally shifting for you, or that you feel is coming up on a shift?
Just being able to whittle down that story. Like when I was out in the trails behind my house training for the hike, I, for the first time, was alone with my thoughts.
Yeah.
I took out the podcast, I took out the music, and I just was there, step by step by step, for hours out on those trails. And I was able to start to piece together a bunch of the bundle. It was, just chaos in my head. Like, who am I? What do I want? I don't even know. How am I going to be, a supportive wife and mom, and also achieve these big dreams that I have? And just slowly, with every step, I was starting to put together, to figure out the bad stories that I was telling myself and get rid of them.
Were you able to do that?
Yeah, just like in marketing, like Donald Miller, storyteller.
Story brand, yeah.
Story brand always says a muddled message leads to no. So if I'm sitting here telling myself negative thoughts, why would the universe give me anything that I want, right? And so all of a sudden I've realized, like, I just need to shift my story. Like, I need to tell myself the good things. Like, you are successful. You've done great things with your career. Living here in Idaho is going to be wonderful. Your family is going to thrive. Like, those are the things that I needed to shift in my mind. And just soon I just started to get confidence back.
You make it sound really easy. Is there some sort of like supplement or drug or elixir that I can recommend to other people named me that could have that type of monumental shift in positive thinking from where you were at, which sounds like kind of a dark place?
Yeah, it was not easy. It was dark. Lots of tears shed on those trails. But for a profession, I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
I write persuasive stories to ignite action. That is what I do. So all of a sudden I just had epiphany one day, like, why am I not writing my own story? I write stories about people all day long. Why don't I write the story that I want to tell? And
when did that happen?
Weeks into training. I'm still working on it. I'm still tweaking it. I don't think that's ever going to stop. But
I've seen a couple recently that were really impactful on me.
Thank you. I think you have to have that story as your guiding light. And, I would love to be able to help people figure out their stories. If there are other veterans or military spouses struggling, like, let's change the narrative and put you on a good path.
You did this, or you do this still, but even when you were when you were in a place that wasn't as positive, you were still writing as a job, persuasive stories for a lot of different groups, like positive stories, right? Did that put you in a place of feeling like inauthentic, or was it just like easy to forget about your own problems while you're trying to help others? I don't know. Like, what did that feel like, and how has it changed since?
I think a lot of what I do is helping other people. Like, I thrive off of, there's a problem, let's figure out a way to find a solution. And so I build partnerships and campaigns to fix that issue. So a lot of the issues that I dealt with are for the community, and I wasn't looking in the mirror. I wasn't looking in the mirror and saying, oh gosh, my family's dealing with this too, because that's hard to do.
It is, yeah.
And especially with my husband, there's so much about his story I didn't know. I had a front row seat to his career, and am so proud of him. So when he got out of the military, and we were keeping such a busy pace, as a family, and he was gone all the time. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden we're living in Idaho, and he's here 24/7. And I'm exposed to more than I ever have been.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that he is suffering from the things that I am working so hard for the community, and I didn't even know.
You didn't know before?
Not to the extent. Mm-hmm. I did not know. I knew about his injuries. He has a bad back and the pain around all of that. But once he was slowing down, other things came up.
Yeah. It's pretty natural.
And it was confusing to me. I wasn't tying these things to his service. So it was super helpful for us to go to counseling, to therapy, because we needed tools that we didn't have. We were always the strong couple until we weren't, and we didn't fight. So all of a sudden we are fighting, and we are having a difficult time, and I don't know how to have a hard conversation with him.
Yeah.
I don't want to have a hard conversation with him. I don't want to hurt his feelings, and I'd rather just push that under the rug. So therapy gave us the tools to identify when we're in a rough spot, how to handle that, maybe not engage in the heat of the moment, and then also gave us the tools that when it was time, when things had calmed down, to be able to have those tough conversations.
It's always strange when we hear it a lot, where there's all these all-star couples, right? Like, they're fantastic parents. They're both very accomplished, husband and wife, or whatever the situation is. Like they're the power couple, and then it's like, by the way, like, we've also been struggling. And it's like, no shit, like, join the club, right?
Yeah.
It's weird. Does that feel like a burden on you that you had to be that? Or is it just something that, I don't know, just occurred naturally where... Speaking to someone that has very much been there and there, where it's like, it's easy when you don't focus on your own stuff. It's way easier to focus on other people's and be like, man, at least we're not them. Or, oh, God, those people have it bad. I feel bad, for them. I want to help them. Then it comes to your door and you're like, shit, this is not comfortable to be the person or the couple.
Yeah. We always had to put on the strong, brave face. And... especially military spouses, they're always praised for being strong, resilient, all those words, and we are, but just because we bounce back doesn't mean there's not scars. Mm-hmm. And I don't talk about them because I don't want to talk about our issues with people who are close to us, friends, family, because I don't want them to look negatively on our relationship or my spouse. So a lot of what we were going through, I was just stuffing down.
That's healthy, right?
Yeah, super healthy. Yeah. Until you can't, and it bubbles up, right? So it's just sometimes, like, we need to be asked. Mm-hmm. The only person that I can recall asking me if I'm doing okay is my mom. Mm-hmm. But there's time. I'm never going to just call up someone and be like, oh, man, I've had a rough day. My husband's struggling, and I don't know how to deal with it. That's not my personality. Mm-hmm. So for someone to be able to reach out and say, gosh, this has got to be tough. Are you okay?
Well, how then, in your position now, like, do you encourage people veteran spouses or anywhere in between to seek help then? Because like Mission 43, like we have a lot of partnerships with groups that are specialized in that, like Summit Hyperbarics and Wellness, Headstrong Project, Warrior's Heart, Marcus Institute for Brain Health, whatever. A bunch of different partners that do amazing work, right? And they're all available. Mm-hmm. The hard part is getting people to connect to them. Yeah. Even though there's a very, really easy bar, low bar to entry type of thing to actually get it. How do you talk to people and say, like, hey, I know you're strong, but you might want to...
Yeah, and I think there are resources available, but when it came down to it, I was the one that had to nudge my husband in to get the help.
I don't think that's uncommon, is it?
No, not at all. So luckily, we are super lucky here in Idaho. We have those partnerships. We were cared by the vet center, which I love.
The Boise Vet Center?
The Boise Vet Center.
Good people.
Yep. My husband still goes to them every week. There is also a national organization, the Headstrong Project, that is here and able to help. They have virtual and in-person therapists that are waiting and ready to support Idaho military families. The interesting part about those organizations is that they are PTSD focused.
They're trauma related.
Yeah. So
not necessarily combat trauma related though, right?
Right. But it requires the service member to take the first step. So as a spouse, if you are noticing that your service member is struggling, the best thing you can do is encourage them to get in and seek support. Mm-hmm. And then from there, that opens up doors for you. Mm-hmm. And spouses have their own issues that aren't tied to the service member's trauma.
Yeah.
And they should seek those avenues. But if you are a spouse that is dealing with a spouse that has trauma-related issues and they can get the support, you can get in there too, either in marriage counseling or individual counseling. Mm-hmm. And for us, super helpful because I know about PTSD, I know about TBI, but on the highest level until I'm sitting here dealing with it. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of confusion around it. There were things happening in our house related to triggers that I didn't even know about because my husband never told me. Mm-hmm. And rightfully so. There's some things that I don't need to know. But there are other things that I do need to know. And that's part of having those really difficult conversations to understand, things that happen downrange that don't seem to be related, but are impacting our family.
Yeah.
And our kids, tolerating noise, things that may have happened, traumatic things related to children. Those are not things that I had ever put together. So when he's acting to me bizarrely, I did not know it was related to that trauma. So being able to go to talk to someone who could explain why these things were happening and shed light into the situation was just invaluable.
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, Michelle. I think a lot of it, too, it's hard from the service member side. I say that, my side right now, because I definitely can identify with all those things. And it's hard to even hear someone talk about it and be like, oh, damn. Yep. Because I don't think anyone, no matter husband, wife, father, mother, no one wants to be a negative influence on their family, even if it's incidental. Or even if there's a lot of psychological and physiological reasons behind it, no one wants to be a negative influence on that. But I also think there's a lot of well-meaning people, everywhere, but certainly here in Idaho, right? And there's a lot of counselors and people with all varying levels of certification and degrees and everything like that. But the one thing that I truly appreciate about the Headstrong Project is their level of care and their level of clinician is way higher.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of them are doctors. I'm not saying, I mean, I give shit to doctors all the time. Most of them practice medicine like I practice fishing. But these doctors are not just doctors. Like, they have a very, very high, like, military acumen, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a very high cultural competency with military spouses and veterans themselves. So, one, they can't bullshit them. And two, they've seen it all and they've heard it all, and they have the professional expertise to deal with it. And this is from my personal experience too. It is very different, whether it's couples counseling or individual counseling, going to someone with that level of expertise
Mm-hmm.
versus someone that, even with the best of intentions, just is not equipped to deal with, like, holy shit, you did what?
Yeah.
You know, you saw this, you did that, this has happened in your family since you've been whatever back. Like, they're like, oh shit, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like, to them it's like almost like a passenger experience on a really bad bus ride without Keanu Reeves, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it makes a difference. And that's why we had to reach out, right? Like, Headstrong, you said, it's a national project or national organization, right? But they didn't really have a presence in Idaho. And we, a couple of years ago, made an agreement with them. Like, we want them to build it out specifically to help military families here in Idaho. And a lot of it is, like you said, available through telehealth.
Right.
I was a big non-believer in telehealth for a long time. I think COVID scarred me or something. I don't know. I was like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But if it gives you access to the best providers that happen to be living in Colorado or Pennsylvania or California, and Headstrong pays for them to get cross-state licensing in Idaho specifically to help clients associated qualified with Mission43, you know, like, it's something that's there for the taking. I'm not sure many people know about.
Yeah. It's like concierge service. They're going to match you with the right therapist and get you the help that you need. And it's not cost prohibited.
Yeah.
Like, there's 30 free sessions that you can take advantage. And then if you need further support, it's manageable.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I know that's a huge barrier for our nation, trying to get support, mental health support. And we are fortunate to have that in our backyard, and we need to take advantage of it.
Yeah. I think the give a shit factor goes a long way too. Like, you can have all the degrees in the world, but unless you truly care,
Yeah.
or have the understanding or knowledge base of the particular culture of the people that you're dealing with, then it's hard to find success, right? But
Yeah.
what would you recommend, I guess? So if someone is at a point that maybe you were at a couple of years ago, let's say, where the talk in your head is mostly negative self-talk, like, what is the short-term and long-term answer? What's your recommendation?
First of all, I would seek therapy, try to get context around the situation. Second of all, reach out and build that community and that connection. You do not have to go through this alone. There are people that understand you and want you there. All you have to do is put yourself out there to meet them. And third, now, thanks to Mission43, I'm a huge believer in solitude. I need time to be alone, to process my thoughts. You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts, audiobooks, and it's constant information download. Like, I need to separate myself from that so I can process my own thoughts.
Not the Mission43 podcast, though. You can
Yes.
No, even that.
Yeah, but you just need time to think clearly.
Yeah.
And when you're in a situation like that, there's a lot going on in your head, and you need to be able to piece those things together. And there's something about being alone, being out in nature, and moving your body that does that like nothing else.
Well, I thank you, honestly, for your candor and for your willingness to share your story. Like you said, you've been sharing a lot of stories for a long time, and it's been fun to see the progression of your story not come together, but maybe come out.
Yeah.
It's inspiring in a lot of ways to a lot of people that may have very little in common with you, but certainly the ones that do, like I'd say me, It makes a huge impact, and just really thankful to have you here serving our community and here as a part of Mission 43. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us for the Mission 43 podcast. We hope you found it informative and helpful. If you have any questions or feedback, please comment below or email podcast@mission43.org. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our podcast to stay up to date with new episodes. Be proud of your service, not defined by it. See you next time.